I was drinking. Well, no, because I was driving myself,
Right.
but just, I mean, people were, it was pouring buckets. And I didn't feel like I could see as far as people just zipping by me, you know. Yeah.
Oh, man. Real low.
I have
Although we haven't seen Barb lately. Oh, yes. Going on.
Yeah.
Father, hello. All right, welcome everyone. This is episode blank. I don't know, number 7 or 6, I think, of Logic. Father, could you start us off with a prayer? I was thinking, like, I went to University of Mary on a job interview in 2015, and before I gave a talk, the professor prayed openly in class. It was really beautiful. I, as a professor, often feel like leading prayer. I mean, I could do that, but it's like if you have a priest in the class. Father, would you mind just saying a quick prayer for us before we start?
In the name of the Father, and of the Son, and of the Holy Spirit. Come, Holy Spirit, fill the hearts of the faithful, and
Kindle them in the fire of your love.
Send forth your Spirit,
Shall be created. You shall renew the face of the earth.
Let us pray, O God, who did instruct the hearts of the faithful by the light of the Holy Spirit.
Grant the same Holy Spirit to receive Christ.
God, our Father, we thank you for the gift of life, for the gift of health, and for the gift of this new day. You are the wisdom itself, and reach us with your wisdom through Christ our Lord.
Amen. So thank you, Father Ben. Oh, go ahead. No, go ahead.
I was gonna ask, who's the patron saint of logic? Probably Saint Aquinas. It's
I
gotta
would
be.
think.
Yeah.
Yeah, I would, and the angelic doctor probably be a good guess. New edition of Maple Syrup History. Anytime we have a priest, as you have today with Father Ben, into the whole. It's like a diorama. It's, you know, anytime we have a priest in class, we'll begin with a prayer.
Whoa.
What I was saying earlier was like, I feel like, I mean, of course, all of us have the Great Commission to evangelize and pray, but yes, if we have a priest to open the proceedings, always that is sweet. Thank you, Father Ben. Okay, today we are finishing up Antiquity of Plato. This is the last, I mean, I keep saying this over and over again, but this is kind of the last true preamble lecture, because we're going to get deep into the weeds, starting with Aristotle on Wednesday. If you check the syllabus, we have 2 classes of Aristotle, 2 classes of Cicero. We're going to go like hardcore on both. We're going to go super deep into those textual analysis. As you saw last class, and now I've had notes that I have, lecture notes that I read off of. I'm actually going to have open book, like just straight reading through. And then, speaking of the angelic doctor, after we cover our patron here, Augustine, and Boethius, Consolation of Philosophy, we will be spending 6 classes on Aquinas. So that is what is forthcoming. Welcome again to a new installment of our logic class. On Wednesday night, Spirit and Life, Patristics, I'm going to open with an absolute fire pit, baby back ribs, honey barbecue sauce dripping down into the flames, roast of the historical profession. Basically something like they told me I had to do it. They told me I had to do it. Do what? Become a historian to help them. And Susan Sarandon and Jennifer Aniston convinced me to leave Hollywood and my lucrative modeling career to become a historian. I'm just gonna then I'll dive into, you know, the real good stuff. It's on patristics. So if you're interested, what am I in for? I am going to be basically doing a crash course very quickly in the history of the patristic fathers. Like, what are some, I mean, things that most people will know. We are very blessed at Augustine's, as all of you do know, to have such a very well-informed, educated, even brilliant parish. So people, it should not be too new ground there, treading new ground there, but I'm going to argue basically why, to anyone who might be a Protestant in the audience, why, if you want to be just a Christian, become a Catholic. Because the patristic fathers hold all the beliefs that have remained in this 2,000-year apostolic thread on the Eucharist, on the Blessed Virgin Mary, etc. Right? And then I'm probably going to focus on, I think, are 2 of the greatest patristic fathers. Of course, everyone talks about, good morning, Sam. Everyone talks about, you know, Augustine. We're going to cover him. We're going to briefly mention people like Saint Irenaeus, Saint Justin Martyr, but I'm really going to focus on Antony of Egypt, who basically invents monastic life, right? Antony, Saint Anthony, the Desert Father, desert monasticism in Egypt, and then of course his not direct successor, but the father of monasticism in the West, Saint Benedict, or at Lamora at Nursia, and talk about. So it's going to be like a crash course. Here's why you should be just Christian, aka Catholic, and then look at the rich actual history. That's Wednesday night. Anyone have anything else? Where is your wife?
She's supposed to be on Zoom, but she's probably supposed to.
Why can't she come in person? This is absolutely this is unacceptable.
Long drive.
Why didn't you?
Not need to be done here for anything else.
Ooh, not need to be here. That says it all. Got it. Got it. Okay.
Why didn't you bring Lorna?
Or why did I?
Yeah. I mean,
Yeah. I can't anticipate all of your.
Hey guys, will you just shut up already? I mean, seriously. Okay, so yeah, welcome everyone to class again. A quick recap, right? We covered Socrates last class. This class is all on Plato. If anyone goes to Maple Syrup History, I sent Father our compendium, Pat, I sent you recently, the videos you see in the description on YouTube. This is gonna be all about Plato. I'm gonna find focus today. We're going to talk about two things basically only. I mean, we'll talk about around that a bunch of stuff, but we're going to talk about Plato's Allegory of the Cave and Plato's view on the soul and society, both being tripartite, triple leveled. It's going to be I cannot explain to you how pumped I am. I'm going to put on the board, in fact, right now, this tripartite thing. Okay, so I'm going to leave up our maple syrup thing, whatever. Okay, so this is the soul. And this is society. I want to make sure people can see this on the computer. In fact, I guess you guys can, right? I'll bring it close so people can pause the video and watch. But so he's like, there's 3 levels, okay? And I'm not even kidding. Like, this is maybe, I think, the most important point of logical philosophy in antiquity. And if all you learn is this today, it's a lot. We could spend all class on this. Okay, and I'm going to use green pen. That arrow, and then arrows like this. All right, I'm just going to pick up the computer for a second. And again, if you're watching on YouTube later, like Charlotte and Eli, you guys can pause this. I think that shows it all, right? Okay. So I'm going to explain it. Actually, okay, there you go. Everyone see that? On the left, it says soul, intellect, will, appetite. On the right, society, guardians, police/laws, masses. Okay, so I'm going to step away. Everyone can see this for a second. But just really quickly, this is the main thing we're going to cover today. Plato says our soul is divided into 3 parts, just like society is. All right. And for things to work well in the soul, our intellect, arrow down, has to control our will, which keeps our appetites in check. And that's the exact same thing. The intellect of society, the guardians, the elite classes, should make good laws. The police should be good, be there to, to protect the community and whatever, and then control the masses, which Plato argued, sorry guys, apologies to President Biden, democracy. Plato, not a big fan. He's like, democracy, the people, it's that ad populum fallacy, right? People are awful. All they want to do is burn stuff and riot, just like the appetites want to just like get drunk, whatever. So Plato famously says, right, if this is disordered in the soul, a disordered people will make a disordered society, whatever. It's unbelievably important. Does that make sense? And it's the main thing we're going to cover today. It's the main thing. All right, let me sit back down. Dave, I saw that you unzoomed yourself.
I'm having some technical challenges.
I was thinking at first you did it out of courtesy to make the board be more visible, but I don't know if that's...
Take a snapshot of the board.
Got it. Just please note too, anyone watching later on, so there's a green thing that says over here, who liked you? Sophia's the best. There is a student, Sophia Weber, I think, was in our class last year. Her brother Peter. Sophia and Peter, you guys are awesome. If you guys are watching this letter, I don't know. I wouldn't say Sophia is the best. Both of you are. We don't need sibling rivalry, petty sibling rivalry in class, right? I think both of you are the best. That's irrelevant, though. You can just erase that. That's total nonsense information. That, above all, is not connected to this. You know, of course, our plumber's logic. Remember, our first glance, A. Is it visible from the eye test? Is this thing logical? Okay. Well, excuse me, A is, does it have any kind of religious value? Excuse me. Wow, I'm already poisoning the pot immediately. A is, does it have any religious value? Is it a sacred text that we must accept on faith? As we talked about, like the logic at the beginning of the world, the book of Genesis, we as Christians accept the Bible as the inerrant word of God. If it's not the case, if it's more kind of like things we'll talk about today, can you do the first eyeball test? No, it doesn't work. You have to go through your whole ag triple, which includes 3 more of these like first glances. And then you finally reach, after you've done through your fallacy checks, all of that contradictions, you have to make your guess. So we're always going to keep that in mind as kind of an operating system for this, but the two are not directly connected. Just please note that. Now, okay, Betsy Johnson, welcome. What I said today is we're going to talk about Allegory in the Cave and Plato's view on society, and that's it. It might be a very short class. It might not. I don't know, depending on the discussion goes. But here's the first thing, now kind of officially beginning. We talked about Socrates. Socrates teaches Plato. Plato teaches Aristotle. Please keep that in mind. On Wednesday, we begin the first of 2 classes specifically on Aristotle. Please keep the order in mind. And if you want to go full historical, like I was saying, right? I am a historian. Historical chronology matters. You can go all the way back to 499 BC and say 499 BC, Nike, Marathon, until 449 is the Greco-Persian War. We're united against the big bad Persians, expel them. That creates a golden age in Athens, our guy Pericles. But that pretty quickly falls apart as the father of history. Some people say, well, Herodotus maybe too, but Thucydides, certainly of that same caliber, writes his famous Peloponnesian Wars, detailing that same name civil war between 431 and 404 BC, where the Greeks, who were unified before, now in a fractious way fight each other and lay ruin to the once united kind of post 9/11 Greece, where we're just all Americans. Now, in the Peloponnesian Wars, it's the political system we have in the country today, right? I'm a Republican, I hate Democrats. I'm a Democrat, I hate Republicans. No across the aisle, whatever. That is the time into which Socrates is active. I'm not going to tread over old ground. If you want to see what we talked about Socrates and aporia and the dialectic method, please see the last recording. But we know Socrates dies in 399 BC, 5 years after the end of the Peloponnesian War, in like this dark age of Athens. Well, just like you can argue, and I'm going to argue on Wednesday in my patristic talk for Spirit and Life, the Dark Ages should be scare quoted. Oh, the Dark Ages? You mean again the time of Benedict and the monks? This very amazingly intellectual time that creates Christendom to come. Same thing here. In this most dark ages, you have this age of the greatest philosophers in antiquity. Socrates, who teaches Plato, teaches Aristotle. Socrates drinks hemlock in 399 BC. Why? 3 reasons. Again, not going to cover this. Don't want to be repetitive. I'm already too repetitive as it is. See last class why he did that, right? Plato's dates, getting to our guide today. 427 to 347 BC. Plato is born in 427, dies in 347. 12 years after Socrates drinks hemlock, Plato founds his famous academy. Yeah.
Before we started keeping track of the years with the birth of our Lord, how did they keep track? What year did Plato think?
Right, I have no idea.
Did he think he was
So I can tell you, I can tell you about the Romans.
Yeah.
The Romans had a thing called AUC, ab urbe condita, AB, UB, condita, CONDITA, ab urbe condita, from the founding of the city. That was 753 BC, as we would call it. But that was the founding of, depending upon your favorite Roman foundational myth, either Romulus and Remus, which is probably coupled by the she-wolf, or Aeneas, right? As talked about in the Aeneid, the Trojan guy, as Troy is going up in flames, takes the sword of Troy and goes across the sea and founds Rome. But they would ab urbe condita. The Jewish people have a certain calendar. Every civilization, the Mayans have their long count calendar. The whole thing with December 2012.
Yeah.
when they're like the world's gonna end was because the long count calendar, it's like once every like thousands of years had reached like a 0 point, a reset. So yeah, that's a fantastic question. I don't know the answer for the Greeks. I have no idea. They certainly had some idea of time. Everyone does, right? That everyone has the idea of like, I was thinking, I watched a video, it's a fantastic question. I was watching a video yesterday of snow in Starkville that my wife and I had taken, Starkville, Mississippi from 2015. And I was like, I cannot believe this is 8 years ago now almost. But I was looking at that road and I had this thought, I was like, but the world is exactly the same. And it was in 1971. And like the trees, you know, the trees, the sky, the sun rising, this is like, nothing changes. I had that thought about time, but it's weird for us. It's like, oh, now I'm now, you know, I'll be 36 years old this year. Back then, 2015, I was what, 27 or 28. It's like that we feel that changing of time. So everyone does. I don't know how anyone know how the Greeks kept time, what their years were? Again, I know what the Romans, but from the founding of the city, but
They used Apple Watches back then.
Apple Watches, that's right. Yeah, there was, I think there's this whole thing. It was like a rapper trying to sign people. Plato, is he going to sign with Apple? Is he going to go with, you know, is he going to put his podcast on Spotify? I think they went with Apple eventually. Yeah, you're right.
In England, they use Stonehenge, of course, which is why.
They were stoned in a hedge in England.
Which is why we're not doing the time changes, because they're tired of moving the big rock.
Right, all on the thing, yeah. I mean, by the time you move them all, you got to change it back. I want to do a good Obama impression. I can't, but I want to. I just know Obama, like he's very deliberate. Like, American. I can't do his voice though at all. I wish I could. I'd love to do Obama, Trump, Biden like argument, but it's just me. But I can't do it. You know, I can't. It's not good at impressions. The only I can do Trump's good. Like I can do that. He does that really good. But I can't do the voice though. You know. Okay. All right. So really quickly too on history. Again, Plato's dates are 427 to 347. I'll come back to action in 5 seconds. Just know Socrates teaches Plato. Plato teaches Aristotle. Who is Aristotle's famous student? Alexander the Great. Alexander the Great conquers the known world from 336 to 323, dies in Babylon. People think he's poisoned. And it's one of his generals, Ptolemy, goes off and founds Egypt. And who's his most famous descendant? Obviously, the Cleopatra, the lover of both Caesar, she has a child with him, Caesarion, and Mark Antony. Wow, you know, no comment. Tabloids had a field day with this, but you know, they made a reality show, and that's what they do. Everyone made a bunch of money. There's a great connective thread here from 499 BC all the way down to 31 BC. What's 400 and what is that? 68 years or something. 31 BC being the Battle of Actium, when Octavian, Julius Caesar's nephew, defeats Cleopatra and Mark Antony, and he'll be crowned Augustus Caesar. And Tiberius Caesar, his successor, is the Caesar of the Bible. Talk about the census, the Gospel of Luke. So it's like, this is great, right? This is good to have this historical knowledge. This is why I'm a historian, guys. Yeah, I'm gonna do like the arrogant chin up. That's what's up. Yeah, okay. So Plato, 427 to 347, founds the academy in 387. Pat, why does this matter? Plato founding the academy in 387, what is this like? Obviously. It's like the first university. If you want to know about the history of universities in the West, our esteemed Father Chase Hasenrall, our amazing pastor, is at the University of Oxford. Considered, if not the best, definitely top 5 best universities in the world. It's up there with the Sorbonne and blah, 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 right? Harvard. The University of Oxford has its reputation, not just because it is objectively a great place of learning, like Cambridge, but Oxford is founded in the year 1117. It's super old. Harvard is very old. Harvard, I think, is 1636. That's awesome. Harvard predates America, the Declaration of Independence by 140 years. But I mean, Oxford predates Harvard by almost 500 years. Oxford is 1117. It's not as old, though, the University of Bologna in Italy, 1088. And the University of Paris is 1200. All of these things now, first kind of important point, right? If you want to do even what we're doing, plumber's logic, as I've said a million times, I'm not a logician, I'm not a philosopher, but even just basic love of wisdom philosophy, have a class, you need a space to do it. We're in this academy. I mean, I like to think, you know, to give ourselves credit, we're doing something kind of like Plato would have been doing. We're sitting around discussing the meaning of life, ideas, that kind of thing. You need a vehicle for logic. You need a vehicle for logical discourse, for philosophical inquiry. This academy, in addition, these guys are you can say are good on 2 scores. Socrates, Plato, and Aristotle. They're good intrinsically, meaning they're just brilliant people. Socrates famous, going the world over to find the smartest man, to be a gadfly. Sam, but why? Why do you believe this? Like, that's great, philosophically speaking. They're also very good kind of as plumbers, as building the infrastructure. And this is the first great example in the world. Why should we just be content with Socrates walking around in the, agora, in the square, asking Trish annoying questions? Why not have a place where people can come and like sit at the feet of this master and learn? And the people that are influenced later on, who in Christendom is most influenced by Plato classically? Who is he often connected with? So we've already done, yes, we've already done the connectivity from the Greco-Persian War to the Battle of Actium. Let's go into AD. Speaking of time, Clay Zimmerman, Anno Domini. Wow, there's nothing more disgusting than BCE CE. Like, I feel like I absolutely like, great. You guys don't accept Christ as your Lord and Savior. That's already epic F. But on top of that, you're going to still name it after him, but refuse to say his name. That's so mature. It's just absolutely disgusting. It's so lame. Oh, cool. BCE. You might as well just like put a sign on your, I'm a bleeping bleep on your head, like with your favorite expletive, like BCE. In AD already, right. St. Augustine, whose dates are, I believe, 354 to 430. And we'll talk about him with Boethius. And last plug for our Spirit and Life, I'll talk about him on Wednesday night too, of course, as one of the most important patristic fathers. He's influenced by Plato classically, and then Aristotle influences Aquinas. So already there, right, you can say from 499, from all this kicks off, this Greco-Persian War, and the embers, the ash, the dust that settles afterwards and births Socrates, Plato, Aristotle, you have something like 1,700 years from 499 BC to when Aquinas is writing in the 1200s. Aquinas, I think, is 1226 to 1274. I don't know, some 13th century. Okay. And all these guys, first point, look back to like the academy. So Plato's in the academy. Where is Aquinas? At the University of Paris. It's founded in 1200. You need a vehicle. And we have our own academy / University of Paris here in the St. Alypius room. I think it's called Alypius room, right? Do you think I'd bother to read the sign when I come in? I can't read, guys. Okay.
That one's a bit.
Ooh,
I think that's a room.
Dave, you just pointed at a wall. That's not a room. That's a logical fallacy. A wall is not a room.
I think it's Ambrose.
It's Ambrose? Okay. So whatever it is. Hey, St. Ambrose, St. Alypius, cool guys. It's good to know where you are. It's good to geolocate yourself. Yeah, exactly. Okay. Let's talk about some basic things Plato said. Okay, again, and then I really want to actually go through some of the old fallacies when we talk about this, right? This class is textual analysis. It's Big Teddy, plumber's logic. We want to apply the logical tools we learned. The algorithm is fine. Let's actually do it. When we talk about this, we're going to do the whole thing. And I'm going to actually bring back the old fallacies and name them. We're going to say, are there fallacies here? What do you think? Because you already can put a X over A. This is not a religious document. Plato himself, right? Despite being this big form guy, there's forms in the sky, perfect, kind of other world. He's not claiming he's some kind of prophet. He's not saying that at all. Okay. I'm not saying these guys are atheists. In fact, the last preamble I was reading yesterday in preparation for Wednesday, some of the early guys like St. Justin Martyr were like, oh, people call us atheists. We're atheists like Socrates. It's very cool. I was like, man, this is awesome reading this in this time, we're in this class. And he's saying, just as Socrates, remember, was condemned for corrupting youth because he's like, your gods are false, your small g gods are false, blessed be God forever. These stupid pantheon of these guys who become animals to have sex with women. This is ridiculous. Well, yeah, we're atheists like that. Because we reject your pantheon of nonsense and your idolatry. We serve the one, first point, non-contingent being, Lord and God, the God of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, and the Word became flesh and dwelt among us. Like, and they're talking about it in these philosophical terms. Okay. Now, Plato. How is Plato related to Socrates? Remember, Plato, 427, 347, founds the academy in 387, first university. How is Plato related to Socrates? Socrates teaches Plato and Aristotle. What is the division point here? Betsy already correctly said that St. Augustine is, really influenced by Plato, as Aquinas is influenced by Aristotle. What is the relationship between these three? If these are the three classic guys, and that is what I'm saying, right? Socrates, Plato, and Aristotle, these are the main dudes. What is their relationship one to the other? How does Socrates often appear in the things that Plato does? And are they in agreement or discord? Why? Anyone know?
So Socrates is presenting the teachings Yeah, Plato is presenting the teachings of Socrates by featuring him in his dialogues.
Exactly. Now, please note this. Plato's dialogues explore the nature of virtues, period. Plato in his dialogues, in his whole corpus of writing, is exploring the nature of virtues, plural you can say, or virtue just in general. And often, people say Plato and Socrates are indistinguishable from one another. Because we don't know if Socrates said this, or if Plato's putting words in Socrates' mouth. Dave Schmidt is my hero in life, so every story I write is Dave Schmidt's the main character. Well, Dave Schmidt, when he walked the earth, 50 years ago or something, he was famous already, but he famously never wrote anything. He was against that. He was an oral teacher. That's what Socrates never wrote anything down. He was an oral teacher. I'm going to go and bother Brad King with why he believes what he believes. So he reaches a state of physical befuddlement called aporia and gets the truth of things. My dialectic Socratic method of inquiry. But he never says anything. Well, therefore, if I, Plato, who am very pragmatic, I'm not content with just saying stuff in the public square. I'm going to found a university, right? I'm going to have a place where we can do this, make it official. You can think like transcripts and admissions and all that. Of course, it's not that, but you get my point. I'm going to officialize it. I'm also going to make it official by writing it down. Well, if Dave Schmidt is the main character of all my things, people might soon say, if father has heard Dave speak when he was a young boy, and now as a seasoned man, he comes to my university, he might say, I don't even know where Dave Schmidt ends and Groshin begins, because that's what the relationship is with Plato and Socrates. Socrates is the main character often, and he says stuff, but is Plato taking artistic license? We don't know. Just please note that, especially for next class. Both Plato and Socrates are about the idea of form, very kind of heavenly looking, or you can say very abstract. For Aristotle, very much the best way I ever heard it was, has dirt under his fingernails. Aristotle doesn't deny a heavenly realm, etc., although he also too is kind of very, I don't know, he believed the universe had always existed, that was not created. Talk about Aristotle next class, let's not get too far ahead. But just know that Aristotle is a clean break from Plato. Plato versus Aristotle is kind of like what two modern psychoanalysts, who knows this answer? One, and they're always grouped together, but they're very different. Freud and Jung. Sigmund Freud and Carl Jung. Their psychoanalytics, very different. You can say that's Plato and Aristotle redux for the modern time, late 19th century. Okay, so what did Plato actually say? Now we're going to get into that now. Remember, it's kind of stuff Socrates said. Point number one, Plato is very much about the form. Please note that. That's going to be the operating system, the key for the allegory of the cave. Plato believes there is an objective reality. There is absolute truth. That sounds good, right? We like that as Catholics. But often it's in this inaccessible heavenly realm, which maybe he even can't put perfect notes on. And as a Christian, we'd say, well, that's because he doesn't have the gift of revelation, right? And God bless Plato. He's doing the best he can, but he doesn't understand the incarnation. He doesn't understand God bridging that gap. He doesn't have what the Jewish people have in terms of revelation. If you want to know, please note this too, because at this time, the Jews are very, very active as well, right? I mean, this is for centuries now, going back to Moses, Abraham, the patriarchs, all this, a parallel track, right? And we talked about the Jewish people, of course, through the Torah in our first logic at the start of the world. When we talked about Genesis and Exodus, 10 Commandments. Christianity, I think all of you know this, but Christianity is philosophically, and this will be the most important thing I say today, I just know it. Christianity is philosophically the marriage of Athens and Jerusalem. Christianity is the marriage of Greece and the Jews. Why? The Jewish people, not very philosophical in the Old Testament, but they have 100% divine inspiration. Pretty cool. That they don't understand a lot of the philosophical stuff. They're not very abstract. But the Jews have the rock-ribbed truth of Exodus 3:14, God saying, I am who I am. That's pretty great. The Greeks, they don't have any divine understanding, really. They think, God, Zeus, whatever, they're completely epic fail compared to the Jews understanding God is. But as the Jews have no abstraction, the Greeks have that in spades. That's why some people say that St. Paul gave the wrong speech at the Areopagus when he goes and he's like, Christ rose from the dead, or says all that kind of stuff. And the Greeks are like, rose from the dead. Yeah, we'll listen to you some other time, right? Everyone knows this story. Thank you very much. No, we know people can't rise from the dead. And that St. John gets it right. How does St. John open his gospel? In the beginning was Logos. and Logos was with God, Logos is God. And they're like, wow, got it. We're going to be Christians now. Logos, and then that's what the original, I think it's in arche logos, and my Greek is non-existent. I'm not going to do the thing I said last class. Remember I said I hate metanoia means to repent, yeah. But like the Greeks, the idea of logos, from which we take the name of logic, has a translation in like Oxford English Dictionary, like 900 pages long. I mean, there's actually like 200 entries. But logic, logos can mean like logic, wisdom, divinity, all this thing. And St. John, he's like, these guys aren't Jews. These guys don't understand like how St. Matthew's gospel has the genealogy. They don't care whose father was who, or and rising from the dead. You have to have that revealed to you. These guys don't believe. These guys are just scientists. You have to tell them the second person of the Holy Trinity, the incarnate Word of God, is Logos. That concept that Plato, Socrates, Aristotle understood, this moving force for all things, that is a person, that is Jesus Christ. And then they Greeks, convert like lemmings. But Christianity, in Christianity, we have tons of abstraction, tons of philosophical Aquinas, angelic speculation, and very much rock rib, dirt under your nails. Read like Quadragesimo Anno, how workers should do. That's why Christianity is freaking sweet, because we have the best of the Jews and the Greeks rolled into one, right? As Christ is 100% abstraction and ineffable God, not to be comprehended, in the most real thing. Nothing is more real than a baby in a manger, right? All right, class over. If you get that, that's amazing. Trishman, I know, I can see how impressed you are by your facial expressions. Thank you. Actually, I say you're welcome. Okay, so Plato, we can't distinguish really, again, what he says versus Socrates. What does he say? So say like, here's some points. Ready? Take these down mentally, or whatever you want to do. The real aim of education is completion, meant to attain what they're meant to be, not to specialize so much, but to and again, all the guys like this. That's very Socratic, and Aristotle will say the same thing too, right? The arete is kind of like perfect completion, which leads to eudaimonia, happiness, fulfillment, is like a pencil writing it. When is this coffee cup should be perfectly happy if it were sentient? It's not. But if it was, it'd be very happy to be drunk by a person, to be filled with coffee and be used to drink. It would not be happy to be as a target practice. That's not what it's meant for, right? Like things are, you should become what you are meant to be. And these guys ask the very question, very apropos to our society today, very appropriate. Do human beings have a purpose? Well, yeah, right? And we talked last class about teleology, the ultimate purpose, as the Catechism says, the old Baltimore Catechism. Why are you here? To know, love, and serve God and be happy with him the next. That's very Greek plus Judaism, right? Plus Old Testament Christianity. It's very abstract, very practical. Okay. All should find a good teacher. Period. Plato, come to my academy. This is, hit the like button, get the bell. There's new content added. Yeah, exactly. That's what he's saying. Ding. Plato, wow, shameless. Yeah, he's like, this is a problem. Let's apply these logical points to our illogical society today. Today, it's like, no, I'm 19 years old. I know everything. Trish, you're a stupid boomer. That kind of terrible attitude, right? You guys know nothing. It's like, I could be talking here to the smartest woman of the past 100 years, but I'm 18 years old. I figured it out. Okay, boomer, you don't know anything. You know how to use Instagram, please. It's disgusting, right? Not only is it so disrespectful and awful, and even like really, not to belabor the point, but almost like a violation of the fourth commandment and like disrespecting your elders to the max. But it's also like, you guys are idiots, right? And I'm part of this. I'm a millennial, right? The worst generation. And it's like, oh no, we just got it all figured out. I don't need to learn anything from you. Plato right away says, no, that's if you have talent, if you have ability, you should refine it. I should be begging Trish Schmidt. I'll do anything you want at her doorstep. Teach me, enlighten me. Only through that way will I make any kind of progress. And Aquinas is very, very big on this. Aquinas is very, very big that humility is the gateway towards all things. Okay. Father, in his homily at Mass history, 1030, talked about humility as the queen of virtues, right? The starting point, how important humility is. Without humility, you cannot progress in any possible way. And pride, of course, being the opposite vice. All right. Plato, here's a good one. Does this sound logical? I think so. Knowledge is not the same as opinion. What do you guys think? I think it checks out. Do you guys agree, disagree? Why? Knowledge is not the same thing as opinion.
Well, knowledge is based in fact. Opinion is not.
Yeah. And I always argue, like, I have no problem people saying that about relativism, that, that there is a relativism. I just think relativism is in perspective. I don't deny that all of us do have a relative perspective on the good, the true, and the beautiful. The fact is, That's not the same thing as truth. I have no problem with people saying that Moscow, Idaho has X population, let's say. And maybe you stay on a part of town where it's not heavily trafficked. You're like, Moscow has 6,000 people, small town. Maybe you're just, well, I don't know why. Moscow's 100,000 people. I have no problem people saying that there's relative opinions of the population of Moscow ranging from 6 to 100,000 people. The fact is Moscow has an actual population down to a census data point, and that's a fact, and that's not relative. I have no problem with you saying, according to my truth, Moscow is 78,000 people. Fine, that's your perspective. It's false, right? Knowledge is not the same thing as opinion. And maybe one of our worst illogical facets of our modern society or features is saying those things are equivalent and substituting one for the other. Well, Pat, you know what? I think it's 78,000 people. I'm going to live my life that way. And you say, well, that's good enough for me. If you really believe that, then that's reality. No. Number one quality of philosophers and rulers, Plato says, is knowing and living the truth. You see why these guys are called like righteous pagans, proto-Christians, whatever. They don't have revelation. They don't understand the fullness of truth, like at this time the Jewish people do, right? The Jewish people at this time are the only people on earth post-fall that have any understanding of who God is. The Greeks do not. We have to wait till the incarnation for that reconciliation, we said before, but this is very good stuff. This is very good natural, logical stuff. The number one quality of philosophers and rulers. Why does he link the two? Someone help me out. Number one quality of philosophers and rulers is knowing and living the truth.
Because he believes that the guardian and
Absolutely.
society is the philosopher king.
You could not crush harder if you tried. That was just like through a wall. Like it was perfect answer. Exactly. He's not like, making this what I would argue is a fallacy of today. Let's call it the ivory tower fallacy. Let's invent a fallacy. I know a lot about the ivory tower as a professor, right? The stereotype of the disconnected guy who just drinks wine in the square, but it means nothing. Plato says no. Pat, you have a 300 IQ. If you just sit and smoke cigars in the square and whatever and make YouTube videos, that's not good. If you really are that smart and you know the truth, you should lead us. Like you should be in charge. Like we want smart people, not people who are the most corrupt or the most well-connected or the most glad-handing. And in American history, by the way, again, a lot of this changes with our 7th president. Who is this guy? Who is the 7th president in the United States of America? Do we know? George H.W. Bush. Just kidding. Andrew Jackson. Andrew Jackson is the first guy to invent the glad-handing politician thing. George Washington, in his farewell address of 1796, famously refuses power. He already refused power when they wanted to make him King George I, but he's like, no, we should distribute it out. Despite, again, we'll get way off topic now. It's not a class in American history or Washington or anything. But what I'm saying, in American history, until Jackson, there used to be this idea of our leaders should be philosophers, should be lovers of wisdom. The wisest, the best, Plato style, should try to rule us, or we should demand they rule us. I am going to beg Trish Schmidt to be our president because she is the most intelligent, most capable, etc. person. I want her to lead us. Who else should lead us? She's obviously the most talented. She's the smartest person. That's changed in American society, and it changes with Jackson. Now it's but who has the most swag, literally? Who can make the best campaign video? Who can go and make the most rousing speech? Who can identify a scapegoat and we hate these people? Well, that guy, I guess he's good at kicking certain people out or whatever. This is not Platonic philosophy. And they are linked, as Sam said. Very good.
How does that work? Would Platonic philosophy work in America with the advent of specialization? Seems like the people who are considered the most intelligent in different areas might have no practical knowledge.
Well, Betsy, thank you so much. I don't know if this is point number 4 or 5, whatever your numbers are. Plato says all true philosophers love the whole of knowledge, not the parts. Right. We don't do Platonic philosophy anymore. That's old news. That's ultimate boomer. Plato's the ultimate. Okay, boomer, dude. He's 2000 boomer years ago. Kind of terrible, dismissive attitude. Yeah. Oh man, I told you I had a professor once when I was in grad school come in and start yelling. And he was like, I hate how now it's not enough that in our department, I only study cockroaches and know nothing about other bugs I only study the left hind leg of the cockroach, and I can't talk to the guy who studies the right one. It's ridiculous. This has been a huge problem. It's called, again, the ivory tower fallacy. If the ivory tower fallacy is first Pat or Trish, who should be leading us, deciding not to, and just chilling in their ivory tower and doing philosophy for its own sake. The second one is this complete fracturing, breakdown, ultimate specialization, to where you literally, as the cliche goes, cannot see the forest from the trees. You're right. You are 100% right, like 100%, because we just don't do this anymore. Oh, this guy should be a leader. Wow, he's good at business. Okay, I'm sorry. Like, is that going to help when we have a nuclear threat? That he's good at business, that he knows how to make business deals, or this guy he's a real good scientist. He's great in the lab. Awesome. How does that help with economics? I mean, like, right? So indeed, this is why some of these old societies that had this guardianship obviously leads to, this is monarchy. This is not democracy. They hate democracy, right? Sorry, apologies. Well, why are the Greeks the founders of democracies? Solon, Cleisthenes, guys even earlier than the great philosophers, were about kind of like, popular appeals. But no, I mean, like, these guys, especially the Romans were like, absolutely not. Are you serious? Like, the Senate will make decisions. We might want the kind of elite of society to have some kind of stake in the share. And that's why we ourselves do not have a democracy. We have a republic. We have a representative government. That one guy or woman is supposed to stand in for all these voters. We don't want the common guy to have all the say. We'll pretend he has a say. He can say whatever he wants at town hall and be like, okay, dude. And later on, just ignore him. I mean, are they wrong? That's what we're going to talk about today. I don't know. Do I want some guy who's just like, the Larry Cable guy, get her done? Do I want that guy like having equal voice? Maybe not. If he's like, all he does is drink Natty Light and watch NASCAR, like, do I want that guy leading society? Maybe no. I don't know. Do I want some like super, that guy's on maybe the right side? Do I want some super woke leftist guy? No, neither of them, right? Like, are they wrong not liking democracy? I don't know. I really don't know. But yes, Plato says a true philosopher has to like the whole, not the parts. So if you, do we have any, good, talk to me, Betsy. Do we have anyone in society that loves the whole? Are we doing whole work anymore? Is anyone who's studying organic thought, kind of like meta thought, is there anyone that qualifies at all, in your opinion, or anyone's opinion?
Well, we have a bunch of smaller liberal arts colleges that study
Great books, right? Yeah.
However, often they're so isolated and they don't go deep enough into some of the things. You'd have to do more than that. It's just the beginning.
What if in the process of seeking wisdom in a liberal arts college, classical upbringing, that one comes to the conclusion that life is best lived simply, and they end up becoming a farmer instead? Yeah,
100%. Yeah. I think Socrates worked as a stonecutter. I think, if I'm not mistaken. Socrates is awesome in that way. He was totally blue collar. Socrates is not ivory tower.
I'm definitely familiar with some of the grads from some of those colleges who have gone blue collar.
100%.
Construction.
Okay, there is this attitude, and I hold it too, guilty of like, well, I have a PhD. That's like a title. I'm like an aristocratic lord, I'm like a duke. Like everyone, like there is that kind of crap. That's why actually, I hope it's not false humility. That's why I don't like Dr. Grosh and Doctor. It's so tool bag. It's like 100%. Like in the announcements that I did yesterday, I read the what do you call it? The thing for Wednesday, Dr. Grosh, and Dr. Grosh gave me. Of course, I'm very proud and I thank God every day that I earned my PhD. But you can get carried away into this idea of like, this makes me better than these blue collar people, which is so false. And people often say it's false because they don't really mean it. They're trying to virtue signal, right? Well, I actually do think I'm better than blue collars, but I'm not going to say that because I want to be like woke or something. I mean it. I swear that no, that is false. And what you said is exactly correct. Is like, the reason I love being a professor so much, I think, is that I'm not so deep in it. Like, I'm not like the head of a department or something that has to deal with a bunch of nonsense all the time. I get to teach my classes. I get to have this dream job, which is, and I look at it as something that's blue collar, so influenced on just producing articles and work and stuff. If I had to deal with like academic administration, I'd go crazy. I couldn't sign up fast enough to become an electrician or something. If I just deal with like, well, Barbara and Dave talked to the ombudsman about saying blah, 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 blah. Like, I'd be like, go nuts. I'd be like, nuts. I don't, guys, just solve it. Get the hell out of my office. Like, I wouldn't be able to deal with it. So your point, connecting your two things makes 100% sense. In that some people maybe see the true light of, I'm not going to get into this thing of like, eating my own tail or whatever it is, just doing, I'll do real academic work, like what was worthy of Aquinas or that. I'm not going to do modern stuff. It's just a bunch of like virtue signal, cliche jargon nonsense, right? And waste my life on that. I'm going to go become a plumber. I mean, that's a huge part of this, sure. And again, a lot of these guys were Socrates especially. Socrates had no idea, no desire to get like publications. And again, this is obviously facetious and anachronistic, but he's not even writing stuff down. He doesn't want credit. He's actually just seeking it for its own. I actually want to find out. Today, like, are you, in our world today, what does it get you, right? Today, like, there's no way, Sam, there's no way you're actually just trying to find out who's the smartest. I mean, you're trying to win a grant, right? You're trying to win a grant, you're trying to win a Nobel Prize, whatever it is, yeah. Like you have some kind of, ulterior motive. Who's funding you to do this? No one believes you're just actually walking around asking, like, it's a waste of time, right? Socrates actually had the disinterested pursuit of truth for its own sake. And he was in the army, he was like a woodcutter. Socrates would have his own construction company today and be like, that's the practical stuff I put food on the table. Philosophy is fun. Philosophy is my Netflix, he would say, it's my enjoyment. I pursue it. And how often, Mark Twain famously said, the secret to life is to find what you love and get paid for it. It's like, Socrates would be like, this is my pleasure, right? Like I work the menial job or whatever. Maybe I give my mind a rest, so I can do this. I'm not looking to get this done. Like maybe in the ivory tower, there's the thought of like I grind on this jargon, and I just go home. I can't wait to watch my football game or whatever. Like I just do it because I don't know, just to get it done. I end up hating the job. I see like Socrates just loved philosophy for its own sake, and so too Plato. And indeed, let's recap really fast before we move on to Allegory and the cave in this. Plato, right? All these points. They should find a good teacher. True philosopher loves the whole of knowledge, not the parts. Number one quality of philosophers and rulers is knowing and loving the truth. A true student must seek the truth only for itself. That's this point. Like if you're a true philosopher, a true student, whether you're like Socrates wandering in the public square, or you're coming to the academy as an official on transcript student, we're only here for truth. Point number 5, to seek the truth is hard. It requires effort. It's compared to an ice bath often. Anyone ever take an ice bath, like a legit ice bath? It hurts. I've done it. It's awesome. It hurts really bad. Like you get in, you feel like you're gonna get hypothermia or something. Then the pleasure sets in. After your body adjusts and like getting yourself ready, it's unbelievable. I mean, if you ever done like a long, hard run or workout and you're kind of sore, an ice bath takes all of that away. Now, I am not a medical doctor. Don't take an ice bath and blame me later when, my leg's still numb or something. I'm not saying take an ice bath. Let me be infomercial. Speak to your medical professional today about ice baths. Ice baths, ice baths twice a day helped me regain my pep in my step. I don't know. I like ice baths, but it's like ice baths take.
It's funding this big ice.
Yeah, exactly. So Big Ice had a $2.3 billion settlement with. Go ahead, Brad.
I found out when I was in Vietnam that after 3 beers, I could handle an ice cold shower.
There you go. Yeah, maybe so maybe that's hilarious because maybe there's some part there where it's a mental hang up and I have to dull my senses, whatever. But again, point number 5. Point number 5. Put aside, disabuse yourself of the notion that philosophy is easy or something. And all these guys were like, I'm pretty sure you want the guy who's wiring your house electrically to know what he's doing, to have gone to an apprenticeship as an electrician, et cetera, whatever that was in that time. If the trades require apprenticeships and training, why do we today think some guy on Instagram gives out advice? And that's legit. Why do we think some 18-year-old moron, sorry, truth hurts, some 18-year-old kid is like, oh, well, President Biden should do blah, 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 blah. Like, dude, shut up. Like, go to school, learn from someone, learn from the Trish Schmidt in your life, instead of, all these old people and blah, 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 no one. And it's like the hilarious thing. It's so funny. It's like youth today is so stupid. It's like, forget, in my mind, I don't know why I think this, but to me, it's like, you're not like old, you're like 90 years old. Today, the youth people are like, anyone who's over 30 is old. Like I'm a boomer, it's like these 18-year-old kids, like anyone who's over 22 is an old guy. So you guys are so stupid. Oh, great. Pretty soon we're going to keep going down the rabbit hole to like only 7-year-olds are not old enough. And the 7-year-old is like the intelligent person. Anyone who's 12 is a boomer. So it's like, this is not just hop on a video, make something. It's like, it takes time. It takes effort like an ice bath. Finally, point number 6, Plato says, education is gymnastic and musical. Plato is a big fan of the student athlete, you can argue. This is once more the Renaissance man, the complete man or woman. Education is musical, means the soul, guys. Yes, music itself, but music, you could say the musical part of education is philosophy, literature, rhetoric, whatever. Gymnastic, of course, that's come down to our time, right? The gymnasium, the idea of like training the body. Yeah, the Greeks, you could say they were lustful, they were physically obsessed, maybe fine, like, oh, we're gonna have these guys wrestle naked at the Olympic Games, and they're just so obsessed with the kind of physicality, it would be like vulgar and inappropriate to us, maybe fine, maybe. But what I'm saying is they believe, don't talk to me how perfect you are mentally, and just again, back hind leg of the cockroach in your ivory tower, show me. If you truly are perfect, strive for perfection, it should be gymnastic and musical. Great, show me your actual musical composition, Mozart style, and how you play the harp and your beautiful writings, but you better have a 6-pack also and be good at running and not be the slob kind of guy, right? It's like the Greeks were very much about that. Because point number 7, ready? Last point. Plato believes the point of education is, surprise, surprise, his whole dialogue is about virtue, is attaining this perfection of virtue and becoming the best version of yourself. Anyone, that modern cliche of self-help, become the best version of yourself. Marshall's $3.99 in a book, how to unlock your secret potential. It's kind of, that is not a real book, but it could be, right? 7 secrets to tap into your 5 hidden talents in 2 weeks today.
How to win friends and influence people. That was
I've never
such an obscene.
it's a
like
vulgar title.
manipulation.
It's yeah, exactly. And that's, by the way, that's considered the beginning of the genre of self-help, written by Dale Carnegie in 1936. I've never actually read the Cliff Notes online. It's absolutely disgusting. It's so vulgar, and like the definition, like so like shameless.
Some people point to that book and what follows, that's the beginning of moving away from great men leading the country.
Absolutely.
To sales.
Absolutely. Dave, freaking preach on. I mean, preach. Exactly. And in that book, some of the tips are like, always pretend to be interested in what other people are interested in. It's just disgusting. It's like, be a total fake person. So Dave, tell me about North Dakota. What do you think is like, it's so offensive. It's so offensive. It's like, I don't care about the only reason that I'm asking these questions, I want exactly your vote or whatever. I want you guys to like me. I think you're beneath me, you're terrible, I just want to use you. The book should be like how to use people. Exactly. I mean, it's gonna be some vulgar title for a guy, how to get girls. Because like that would be the exact same title, for women, like how to have any guy go crazy over you.
There's this book called How to Marry the Man of Your Choice.
That sounds like someone's gonna get reported to HR.
When she was ready to get married, but didn't have anybody, she bought the book, she followed its advice.
And it worked?
Exactly, and it could not follow every chapter of this book.
Got it,
but, yeah. But she followed it and she got married when she wanted, she had the kids when she wanted, and when she got tired of her husband, she got rid of him and then later replaced him, but she's like, she has lived her whole life with this book.
That sounds horrifying.
It sounds effective.
But
yeah. Oh no. I agree. I will totally confess to being tempted to like follow Dale Carnegie's advice. It's very tempting. It's like, oh, but there's some good points in here and stuff. And like, I know, yeah. I mean, I don't want to overstate the point. Kind of like, oh, obviously it works. It's a bestseller for a reason, right? If people read this book and like, obviously it helps. The other famous self-help book, just FYI, Norman Vincent Peale. He was the ultimate kind of self-help guy who like did very soft pedaling, like uber, like watered down Christianity plus like believe in yourself kind of stuff. Norman Vincent Peale. Okay. Those are 7 points. Let's talk about these 2 star things. Get out of here. I promised 9:41 last time. Let's do 9:35 today. I don't know. We'll see. I was wrong last time though.
Before
Yeah,
you
go ahead.
go further, you were ranting on youth.
Mhm.
Maybe you guys.
Go ahead.
Here's a quote, a little long, maybe you'll recognize it. They, young people, have exalted notions because they have not been humbled by life or learned its necessary limitations. Moreover, their hopeful disposition makes them think themselves equal to great things, and that means having exalted notions. They would always rather do noble deeds than useful ones. Their lives are regulated more by moral feelings than by reasoning. All their mistakes are in the direction of doing things excessively and vehemently. They overdo everything. They love too much, they hate too much, et cetera, et cetera.
Yeah,
And that you.
that's
recognize
fantastic. Who is that? Yeah.
Aristotle.
Yeah, there you go. Yeah, great.
I was like, oh, for it. Are you like this? No, I'm not.
No, yeah, there you go. Yeah, yeah.
It's just like the young people's music has always been bad.
And one of them. And their hair is long, even when everybody's hair is long.
Right, right. No, that is great. Thank you for sharing that quote because it's so spot on, but it's also so encapsulatory. Is that a word? I don't know. It encapsulates the class of kind of like just applying practical things. It's very logical. And that seems from first blush, first B, just eye test. That's 100% true. If you said, seems to be the popular consensus here, I can't believe that's Aristotle. If you said that, oh, that was, 2007, 2017, some quote, we would believe it because indeed, it's famous. Dostoevsky talks a lot about that with Raskolnikov, his main character in Crime and Punishment, the guy who believes he can commit this crime, rob the pawn lady, and do great deeds with it, and his conscience destroys him because you're an idiot. Like life isn't about just, oh, but if the world couldn't go on without me. So like, exactly, I love too much, I'm way too extreme, and like will justify whatever indulgence to create my plans, whatever it is. Exactly. And it's like, that's so spot on. Thank you for that.
Well, and everything in perspective, even Carnegie and when friends influence people, on the face of it, that is not a bad thing. I mean,
It's not, it's just, please bring the sincerity to that. Yeah.
Exactly.
If I am interested in North Dakota sincerely, and going off the Trish, that's the star point of today, that you're the most brilliant person. If that's true, that you're this great philosopher and I actually want to learn from you, that's awesome. And become great friends. But I'm just using you for what you can get me. And that's the awful part, as you were saying, if I'm just tricking you, manipulating you, I use the word Clay manipulation. Exactly. Is it manipulative? And if it is, then it loses the entire kind of reason of why you're doing it, right? Or if from a Catholic sense, the women following this advice, if we actually believe in the logic of what we talked about in one of the first classes, the 10 Commandments and basic moral principles, and we're saying they're objectively true, well, if we violate all those, get what we want, that's kind of missing the entire point, right? And becomes that great Bible verse that I love, Mark 8:35-39, what profit a man to gain the whole world and lose his soul, right? Well, what does it matter if you win every friend and win every office, if you go to hell, drag other people with you and just ruin your life? I mean, okay.
Well, this goes back earlier, you probably wanted to go.
No, go for it. Guys, I know I live for this class, and the class is yours. You talk. We're gonna wrap up pretty quick anyway. We only have 2 things to talk about, but go for it. No, always.
Well, earlier we got into a little bit of, by example, liberal arts college and thinking and kind of holistic thought. Might not be the right term, but anyway, and that kind of throws us into that debate with Catholicism, with our faith. This is not our world, this is not where we belong. This is temporary in the earth. And how much do we want to invest in, leading it as compared to pursuing our faith?
That's that Rod Dreher Benedict option question, right? Of like, how much do we stay in or just withdraw and form these kind of communities focused on salvation, above all.
And then on the other hand, we all go into the cave, as hermits, and pursue a life of prayer, let's say. Well, then, the bad guys, they all take over.
Of course, exactly.
So, it's the sheep and wolves.
And that's, and I agree with you. And I always say that I wish that the smartest, the holiest people in the world were the billionaires, because they actually would use their money for good. Like Mother Teresa had access when she was head of the Daughters of Charity, to not just what she got and all the great shit, but like Bill Gates money and stuff. That would be great. I mean, that'd be awesome, right? I don't think everyone has a price tag. She would become corrupt and own private jets. No, like,
And that kind of oxymoron.
yeah, exactly.
Billionaires.
Yeah.
Can you amass that kind of wealth?
And isn't it amazing how I find this as I read scripture, just before I forget, and I'm coming to you, but I find this as I read scripture, like everything is in there. It's amazing. Christ says it's easier for camel to pass the eye of a needle. It's like, that's exactly what we're talking about, right? Can billionaires be good? Holy, they can, because Christ said, what hope is there for us, Lord, then? And then he says to them, no, nothing is impossible for God. For men, this is impossible, not for God. Billionaires can be good by the grace of God, but it's like putting a camel through the eye of a needle.
I was going to say, Bill Gates his philosophy is wrong, he's misguided, and he's leading the world in the wrong way, but he is and has given away a lot of
Sure.
riches. He attended a prep school that had formerly been somewhat classical, but at his time, it had lost faith. They still have a chapel, but it's not really used.
Is Bill Gates through and through Seattle? Like he's from the area, like
Yeah, my mom was friends with his mom, and he belonged to the same clubs, like growing up Seattle society.
sure. Yeah.
In fact, his mom, connection helped him to sell DOS in the first place.
That's great. Yeah. We can't judge people. I'm not going to judge Bill Gates, good or bad. That's a great story. It's a great connection. It shows how that 60 degrees of separation for you is one. I mean, right? Okay, guys. Yeah, last two things. We've covered like 7 things that Plato did. We've covered his relationship with Socrates and as a student of Socrates and teacher of Aristotle. I can't wait for next class because we really get into deep, thick, like, with Aristotle. We're going to go like super butter.
You sound like Father Mike Schmitz.
I can't
wait for more.
Father Mike Schmitz he's the legend. I think of that more and more. It's like, is he cheesy? No, he's great. He really is great. I'm serious. Like his father. Yeah, let's say his father Mike Schmitz. Does he like act like a clown? No. Like I really do like him. I really like him a lot. Is it probably because he's super good looking? Yeah. Like I'm not gonna lie. Like I'm totally serious. Like that's the fallacy I fall for. Like if a woman is beautiful, I'm like, well, she's probably a good person. Like I just like, when I was an undergrad, like I'd be like, I came into the Spanish class and my teacher is this Colombian woman. I almost say Colombian girl because she was like probably 23 years old. I was like, this is awesome. Like in a totally non-lustful way. I was like, this is great. She's gorgeous. I'm gonna love learning Spanish. If she's from curmudgeon, I'm like, oh, dang it, like. So it's like I like beautiful people. Father Mike Schmitz is a very handsome guy. Again, with all purity, and I actually pray for him, right? I bet it's tough enough being a priest. And if you're a priest he was like runner up for Batman or something, like if you're a priest who looks like a movie star, it's probably even worse with like all that nonsense. So he needs probably even double praise. But I like him a lot. I do like Father Mike. I watched Ascension Press, his show. I never watched it. In the past couple months, I've been watching a bunch of his clips, and they're good. Like he does the kind of like cheesy, 1, 2, 3, like just start the video, right? But it's like his videos, he's good. I like him a lot, like total thumbs up. And you're right, the Bible in the ear, catechism in the ear, awesome.
Yeah.
Great.
The girls and I are listening to them both this year, and I feel like, they really haven't gotten Catholic education being in Moscow.
Yeah, it's awesome. Good for you. I think I'm gonna start. I haven't done either of them. I think, just why not? It's great. I mean, God bless him for what he's doing. The Washington Post actually wrote an article about him, which is crazy. Jeff Bezos owned secular newspaper, one of the most important in America, right? He's talking about how great this was. So awesome. Okay, guys, we've covered all this stuff. Last 2 things. Plato, Allegory of the Cave. Remember, Plato's all about the forms, ideas, abstract world. The Allegory of the Cave is very simple. He basically says, ready for it? We are all human beings. He would use this term, but in this valley of tears, in this sinful fallen world, also our terms as Christians, not his. But in this life, we're all like prisoners tied to a cave. And all we see are the reflections of the exterior reality. Imagine like shadows on the wall lapping up from the flames. Therefore, what does that mean? We are benighted. We are blinded. We are the blind leading the blind into a pit, as Christ talks about. You blind guides when he's criticizing the Pharisees. Huge philosophical point all traditions have made that we don't perceive reality perfectly. The Matrix talks about this, right? You want the blue pill or the red pill? You want to know how things are, or live in your comfortable cocoon? We're like prisoners tied to a wall. It is only when a man leaves the cave and sees reality what it is, can he come back to the prisoners and enlighten them. And who is the man who left the cave? Obviously, the philosopher. So we had our 7 points earlier, right? So the point of philosophy is whole, not parts, loving the truth for its own sake. Also, it's The allegory of the cave is ultimately pragmatic. Don't be a philosopher just to be cool. Go and help the prisoners, help your fallen brethren who are chained to a wall, and tell them, I know you think this is like this because of the shadows. Here's the reality. The job of the philosopher, Plato says, is to enlighten humanity as to the reality of the world. Okay, that's the entire allegory of the cave. Now, I want to talk about, again, this. We started the class, let's finish here, maybe in 3 minutes. Plato once more says, the soul is ordered in 3 ways, 3 parts of the soul. And if it goes straight down, you will have a well-ordered person. This is point 9 maybe now, right? We talked about the point of philosophy. Well, if you want to be the philosopher who leaves the cave, let's say that's a literal allegory for leading society, you better be this. Hey guys, I like to gamble a lot. You know, huge debts. He would say, you can't run for office. Hey, I have all these scandals. Hey, I'm this, blah, blah, blah. I'm a recovering drug addict. God bless you. Thank God for like Narcotics Anonymous or AA, but no, like you first must get your house totally in order, and it must work this way. The intellect, and we hope you have a high quality intellect. Let's use measures by IQ, kind of very basic way. Your intellect, your rational part, because they're all about reason, must command the will, because the will, please note, is neutral. The will is not good or bad. The will just does whatever the intellect says. I can will myself to eat 1,000 cups of ice cream or none. If I have a good intellect, I will tell my will 1 cup is enough. And the will enforces that on my appetite. The appetite's always ready to go nuts. Appetite's always ready to eat as much pizza as possible, do as much drugs as possible, drink as much as whatever, right? It's unruly. And Plato says you'll have order if you have a good intellect that commands the will to own the appetite. And that's exactly what you have in society, he says. If you want a healthy society, the masses are always like the appetite. It's the same thing, goes across and down. The appetite is always, the masses are always ready to burn, fight, riot, loot, yell, scream, whatever. Go to NASCAR and get plastered, and lay down in the grass. Like whatever your favorite example is. Frat, sorority, whatever your favorite example is, the masses are always ready to go nuts. The police force or the laws or the government, whatever you want to call it, is it good or bad? It depends upon this. If you have garbage guardians, maybe they say, I don't care, screw these people. Just abuse these people or whatever, that's bad. Or maybe I'm going to become a tyrant. I want to create a police state with gulags and whatever, and put these guys away. A good society will be made up of good men and women who follow what? Virtue. Entire point of philosophy, according to Plato, is becoming the best version of yourself, virtuous person. Will use virtue and the virtues plural to make holy laws, have a holy police force, etc., that therefore looks at the masses not as an enemy to punish whatever, but we're all in it together. And maybe there is a paternalistic attitude towards Plato's view of like these poor guys, they're like little brother who just can't do it. This is big brother. These are the parents. A good father and mother don't tell big brother to beat up little brother. They say help him, right? Help him be the best version of himself. But little brother needs a lot of help because he loves to drink and he wants to go crazy all the time, whatever. Now, I'm just going to go real, while you're chewing on that, let me just rapid fire read through, just some questions. Remember all these kind of fallacies and stuff we covered in the first couple classes? Ambiguity, vagueness, obscurity. I say no. I'm just going to give you my 2 cents to go through. Then I'll let you finish out the class. I think this is very clear. I don't think it's a vague, obscure, or incomplete. I don't think it's a motive. He's saying that this is a motive. He's saying appetite and masses are appeals to emotion, but I don't think this is a motive argument. I think it's a very solid argument. I think he'd have a right here about the perennial knowledge of Aristotle. This is kind of held throughout history. The youth, the masses like to go crazy, like to go nuts. That seems pretty clear. There's not a circular argument here. Okay, he's actually making a very clean comparison. This is not apples to oranges, this is perfectly apples to apples. I think this is very clear. This might be false altogether. Now we get into the fallacies like cogent, valid, whatever. You accept this argument or not? But it's not unclear. Again, it's not ambiguous. It's not a kind of Ryan Alexander talked about the idea of in an idiosyncratic way switching the meaning midstream of a word. There's no switch meaning here. Everyone can agree if you take the premise, his number one logical thing, that society should be run by logic, by logos, right? That St. John will say is Christ himself, then that seems to make sense to me. And then other things like, slippery slope argument, false dichotomies, straw man arguments, red herrings, division. Of course, none of this kind of applies, I would say, in this moment. But I think also, no, I think this is very kind of logical. I don't think he's the only fallacy I could potentially see would be the fallacy to authority, to fake authority. Why should we believe Plato? Why should we accept his own self-appointed? It's like your friend that gives himself a nickname. Oh yeah, I'm Terminator. Well, who calls you that? Oh, me. You guys should call me Terminator. You can't nickname yourself. He's kind of self-appointing, but then a person could respond, no, he's not. He's the student of Socrates, interlocutor of Socrates, right? What do you all think? That's all I have for you today. We covered a lot, actually. I'm grateful that we're hinging this. Like we've gotten a lot about Socrates, probably 8 or 10 points. Again, revisit them on the video if you want. Got these 2 great examples from Plato, Allegory of the Cave, and this comes from his Republic, by the way, and talked about his full corpus of work. What are your thoughts? Let me let you finish the class. I'm done. That's all I have for you. What do you think? Anyone have any kind of I keep wanting to make up words. Conclusatory. That's actually not like concluding. Concluding thoughts.
Wonderful words. Maybe you could.
Are you comparing me to Charles Dickens? Thank you. Thank you. Am I the Dickens of our society, of our time? That's awesome.
The trouble is you have to be popular enough for people to use your.
I'm definitely not popular. It's true. It's really true. To my chagrin, I'm like beg people to come to hippo lectures, and the core people that come, there's like 30, 50 people. I like want to kiss their feet. I'm so grateful. Why is there not all of Moscow? Why are they not selling tickets to my hippo lectures yet? Why is it not being put at the theater in like $30 cover charge? I'm not popular. I'm not popular enough.
I think it's interesting the framework there. Certainly, we see that in Aquinas. And I'm not smart enough to give you a bunch of more examples, but even Freud comes to mind. Id, ego, superego. There's a lot of effort to encapsulate.
Id, ego, superego, Freudian kind of like psychoanalysis 100% draws from this, even if it departs at points. That's brilliant. No, it's great. Okay, well, so then great. Then I'll see you guys on Wednesday. Before I sign up, just really quickly, last point. I just think in a cool sense, we didn't do this point by point, but it's like, I think this like passes this test, in my opinion. And again, you're always welcome to disagree with me 100%. Again, for the 1,000th time, I'm not a philosopher. I'm not going to pretend to fake authority. Oh, trust me. It's my opinion. When I have to guess and make my kind of, plumber's logic guess, if I'm a plumber, this blue collar makes sense. As long as I accept that Plato that's the one fallacy pitfall I see, that is Plato have the authority. And I think he does. The proof's in the pudding. In his academy, his extensive writings, and he was a student of Socrates. That's pretty great. So if you accept he has the authority, we can, I think, especially down here, appetite and masses seems very true. And what person would not agree that we should have intelligent people leading society, or that your intellect should guide your passions? Everyone agrees with that. The thing with, I'm a diehard Democrat, so I want Democrats in charge, or I'm a diehard Republican, I want Republicans in charge. I disagree upon like our party or something, but no one would say, if my people are, would you guys not want great Catholic men and women leading society? I really would. I'll totally confess. I would love to have like overt Christian leaders leading America. That'd be awesome. Right. So I think this is pretty solid. God bless you all. Father, thank you for coming as always. Again, every time the Father Ben is here, no pressure. Don't come the rest of the semester if you don't want. Use your time as you see. But we'll always start with a prayer. If Father doesn't mind if he comes. It's wonderful to have a priest in class. Wonderful to have all you online. And wonderful to have, it's one more compliment, Trish, but truly the smartest person of our century in class. So see you guys later.